Kia ora team, Richard Liew here, editor at nzentrepreneur.co.nz, and today I'm delighted to be talking to Emma Campbell. Emma is the founder of a new business called Bo Studio. She's talking to us today from Ngaruawahia. Emma, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Cool. Now, Emma, you're doing something quite interesting here, and it plays on what I believe is to be the growing interest and the growing number of companies and awareness around startups and scale-ups in our agritech industry. So Bo Studios, from what I know, you're set yourself up to help those sorts of companies focus on their UX and design, so the user experience design of their websites, I guess, or anything to do with how they touch and interact with the market. Can you tell us what you're seeing happen in the New Zealand agritech sort of space, and why have you chosen to set up specifically just to serve that particular market?
Yeah, for me, I came back to New Zealand, I think it was 2 years ago now, from Ireland, where I spent 3 years, and knew we wanted to be on a farm. So we came back to New Zealand, bought a farm in Ngaruawahia, and I don't think there was such a big hub around here to get into UX design to join a company. And so I thought, why don't I combine my skills in UX design and then also my passion for agriculture and interest in agriculture together. And I found that there's a lot of companies who want to focus on like fintech and health tech and all that kind of fun, exciting stuff. And often agri-tech was kind of left alone. And I don't know if that's just because there's not as much interest in it. And so for me, I found that there was a bit of a gap there, and it was something I was interested in. So it just kind of seemed like a match made in heaven. And I think with a lot of agri-tech businesses, they're very development led. And so not so much thought has been put into the user experience side of things. So I wanted to support agri-tech businesses myself, but also provide content so that they can still come to me and come to my website and see articles that might be able to help them implement things as well.
Cool. And so for those of us who are not so sharp on exactly what UX is, can you just give us a quick overview? What does that mean, actually?
UX stands for user experience. And so it's about how someone interacts mainly with a product. So it could be with like a website or an application or even hardware as well. So with user experience, what we're trying to do is make those interactions as simple as possible so that people can get value from the product straight away. For the longest time, in my mind, UX was kind of everything to do with customer experience, but it is very specific to those interactions with something. And then we also have something called service design and experience design, which would look at then the design of how someone interacts with a service. So there's two kind of parts of it, which I'm now starting to separate myself and my business as well.
Right. Can you give us some examples of like bad UX, for example, and what the problems are that can arise? So let's say, I don't know, I'm building a company and I've created some really cool app or piece of technology or, useful sort of product. So why, as a founder, at what stage do I need to be thinking about this user experience?
If possible, right at the very start, it makes it a lot easier. But otherwise, before you get to development stage is also really good. To think about user experience, it doesn't often cost a whole lot in terms of like time and resources. Whereas if you build something and you've sunk all of the development costs in, and then you want to try and fix it, often it's a lot more difficult. Bad user experience can look differently for different people, but in essence, it's if someone is using your product and they're getting frustrated or they're ringing you and asking for support all the time, that's usually an indication that something's not quite right. And the implications of that is maybe they never realize the value, so they leave beforehand. They go to your competitors, they stay as freemium customers and they never upgrade to a paid customer. So there's lots of downfall of not considering the whole user experience.
Right. And so with some of the work you might have done with agritech companies here in New Zealand, can you give us some specific sort of examples of the problems, I guess, they've had in that area, and then how you've being able to implement some solutions, or I don't know, fix it for them basically?
Yeah, so with agritech, it's often quite unique because there's often the actual software component, but there's a hardware that goes with it. So like a banking app, for example, you're usually just interacting with that one interface. But with agritech, you're using a software to kind of bring in all the data points, and you're making decisions based on that. So a difficult thing is between setting up the physical hardware to enable it to send you the data to your software component. So being able to facilitate an onboarding experience where you're telling them how to set up the physical hardware, but also the software side of things. Onboarding is a big one, and also the time it takes to reach value. Often a lot of agritech, it could take 2 months until you've got enough data that it's able to actually give you insights. And it is really hard to get someone to commit to that sort of length of time, to get that data, to see the value, and to know that it's actually working for them.
What are some key principles maybe that I guess any founder in any industry could be thinking about, or should be thinking about, whenever they're looking to bring something to market from a user experience point of view?
Yeah, there's a lot of things to think about, but I think one of the good ones is to always validate your assumptions with users. So at the start of projects, we'll always have all these assumptions we want to make, and then actually validating them is about mitigating the risk of them. So if you've got those assumptions, go out and talk to people and actually confirm that your assumptions are correct before you start diving into design and development. It's like a way to like run little experiments to actually see that what you are thinking is what everyone else is thinking. I think sometimes there's a bit of a disconnect. Often you, as the founder and the person building this, you're not the actual user of that product. And I think it's important to make sure that you bridge that gap and actually make sure that it is what someone else wants and is valuable. And then another one which kind of contradicts my own job is don't be blindly led by your customers. My job is about telling you to talk to your customers, understand them, bring kind of more of a focus to your work, but you can go the complete opposite way. And I see a lot of teams, they have an idea for something to add, and they go to their users and say, what do you think of this? And a lot of the times they say, yep, love it, that's great, I'll definitely use that. So it gets built, and then once it launches, nobody uses it. And it's because they like the idea of it, but realistically, it has nothing to do with their current workflows and the process that they are currently using. So I think my top tip there that a lot of people don't realize is don't ask about a specific feature. If you have an idea in mind, kind of skirt around the edges, ask some questions adjacent to it to kind of clarify what is actually the problem that they're trying to address, and even create like little prototypes and things to test it. But sometimes you just can't trust what people say, because what they do is completely different.
Right. Wow. That's some fascinating, like that's a top pro tip there. Not leading them around sort of, products or features that, you may really be thinking that as a founder that they really going to want it.
Yeah.
But being very mindful not to lead them in terms of planting that seed in their mind. And
yeah,
right. Cool.
Yeah, because we can say anything. It's so easy for someone to say something, but it's the power of observation and what someone's actually doing are two completely different things. And often when we speak, we think we are being honest and truthful, but our actual actions can often speak in a completely different way. Awesome.
All right. Well, that's some absolutely fascinating insights there from Emma Campbell. She's the founder of Bow Studio. And Emma, if people want to talk to you, anyone in agritech, whether you're working with agritechs, you're a startup, you're a founder or a scale-up, you might want to chat to Emma. How do they find out more about you and Bow?
Yeah. So you can reach out to me on LinkedIn, either Emma Campbell or through Bow Studio, or you can visit our website, which is bowstudio.nz.
Brilliant. Awesome. Emma, thank you so much for joining us today, and all the best for an awesome 2023.
Thanks so much.